Twice the Terror.
Welcome to Twice the Terror. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Kat.
And we are your hosts. If this is your first episode, the way that the show normally works is that Kat and I will pick a topic. So either something that is paranormal, supernatural, horror related, could be real, could be fiction, whatever it is. We just pick it and we just discuss it. Sometimes we each bring in something to discuss on that topic, but each episode is just something fun, and it's kind of your morning zoo with weird stuff. If that is right up your alley, then we are the podcast for you. Today's episode, though, is very different. What are we doing today, Kat?
Well, we are exhibiting the act of tooting one's own horn. We're partaking in a little bit of narcissism, and we're going to discuss our top 3 favorite moments from this year of recording.
Yep, this is our season finale, folks. So we are going to be taking a little break. We'll talk about that at the end of the episode. But while other people are getting ready to count down, the ball dropping in Times Square or whatever, the potato in Idaho or whatever it is. Because they do have that. There's a big potato that drops.
I feel like I should have known that. That's important information, Ryan. You've been holding out on me.
But yeah, so this is going to be a cool episode for us. It's a way to just kind of reflect because, we're not going to get into details about this stuff, but we've had a lot of stuff happen to us this year with the podcast, without the podcast, all kinds of stuff. And so it's weird for me to think that I think we started recording this in January. I think the first episode came out in February. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think it was around that time. Mm-hmm. And, it's almost been a year already, which is crazy. This is our 20th episode. Yeah. And we've had a blast making this. And so we kind of just wanted to reflect a little bit. There's not a whole lot of structure. We can kind of talk about things. I think I picked 3 of my favorites, and I'll kind of go in order. I know Kat has some favorites that she wants to talk about. But yeah, it's kind of just going to be a fun little conversation, and we'll kind of just end the year in a nice way to kind of reminisce, as you should on New Year's. Reminisce on your year.
Let's go back and talk about and discuss and think about all those moments that got you through the year. Exactly.
Do you have, so what is your number 3, or do you have a moment that you want to talk about first that is on your list?
Well, okay. At first I wanted to talk about our first episode, which was a great episode. But I think I might have to go with my number 3 being, can AI write a creepypasta? That was an episode that you and I both laughed so.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's your number 3, because that is one of my, I don't want to spoil my list, but that is definitely one of my favorite episodes we ever recorded. And those episodes, for anybody who wants, I guess we can go into some backstory with stuff. Why not? Some behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, this is our behind the scenes moment.
That episode, the original concept, Kat and I were trying to think of something new to do. And so I came up with this concept, well, why don't we do this? Let's have the AI write a creepypasta. We'll log into ChatGPT. We'll have it write a creepypasta. And then the idea for the second episode was, then Kat and I were going to try and bounce back and forth. And without knowing what each other wrote, we were going to give a minute on a clock. We'd write a little bit of a creepypasta with similar prompts, a few things that had to be included. We'd stop, and then the next person would write. And we wouldn't know what we wrote all together until the end, and we'd read it. And we wanted to compare which is a more coherent creepypasta, ours or the ChatGPT. But we had so much fun recording that episode, and that is still probably the hardest I've laughed this year, that we were like, screw it, let's just do another one of these. And so that's why we got the second one, the ultimate horror movie
showdown.
Showdown.
We were laughing, so it's that kind of laughing where no sound is coming out and you're just smacking your knee.
Yes. Yeah. There are moments, and it's condensed in the episode, because I know there are some people that listen to this as an audio thing, and so we were laughing so hard, like Kat said, you could not.
It was silence.
You couldn't hear us. Yeah. And so it was literally us just laughing, and so I had to trim it down because there were 3-minute segments of us just silently laughing because it was so damn funny.
It's It's just all you hear is the sound of my chair creaking as I'm
Yes.
rocking back and forth because I'm losing it.
And it got stupider and stupider, and I think it's like the
did.
epitome of what our show is when we're at our best, you know what I mean? Which is we are the ultimate amount of chaos just packaged in a tiny container. An hour bite-sized, I guess it's not bite-sized, but like an hour, little audio or video thing where you can listen and just be like, what the hell is going to happen this episode?
Yep.
We intentionally, it's so funny when we started this podcast, we were starting it for ourselves, but also for like another company and stuff, and it became our own thing, and it developed. And so as it developed, it became more incoherent in the best possible way that I could have imagined, which is again a blessing to us, I think, in the way that like we kind of just do whatever the hell we want now. There's never this feeling of like, oh, is it on brand, or is it, are we, what once it became just ours completely, we were just like, fuck it, let's do an episode on Ginger Dead Man, or do an episode on whatever we wanted.
Let's talk about AI and dabbing Squidward.
Yes, exactly. It's just
like.
so, it's perfect. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, my number 3 moment, again, these are all top tier to me, but this is one that I immediately think of when I think of the show, is the moment of It's Pants from episode 1, Do Cryptids Wear Pants?
It's pants.
That, I think, was the moment when Kat and I started this podcast. Again, that's our first episode. If you haven't listened to it, do Cryptids Wear Pants. It's up there as one of my favorites. It's really funny, and it set the tone. Kat and I started this podcast, and we were working for the other company, and we knew each other from that, but we didn't really know each other. Like, it was kind of like, oh, okay, cool, we work, and we had both been like, oh, we should do a podcast, like, And so when we started this,
similar brainchild.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but from what we said before, it seemed like we both kind of had the same idea of like, hopefully this works, because there was some nerves to it. It's like somebody you don't know completely, and you're like, is this gonna, what do they want the podcast to be? Like, how is this gonna work? We should record an episode. We were both very excited, but I definitely know, like, oh, I don't know how it's gonna go. Like 5 minutes into that episode, I think we were just totally on the same page. Yeah. Immediately got each other's sense of humor and knew who each other were, and like immediately became friends from that.
I think we both had a simultaneous thought of like, oh, thank God they're weird.
Yes. No, it is. It seriously is. It became like, oh, this person totally gets where I'm coming from and is in the exact same mindset of like a fucking gerbil in a wheel spinning your brain chaos. Like, it was just so fun. And that moment, I think, because we were talking about all kinds of stuff with that was the episode about the melon heads, of course, is a great moment when we're talking about the melon heads. And then we get to them talking about little hats on the melon heads, which is also funny. But with the moment I said, like I said, is It's Pants is the immediate thing when we were listing the things off the cryptid Wikipedia or whatever. And it was like things listed that people claim the Fresno night crawlers
right,
could
like
be.
it could be a deer, or it could be.
But the
one was extraterrestrials. And
the one that just tickled us to no end and made us laugh so much was It's Pants. It's a big pair of pants that people are puppeteering.
I'm still laughing about that. That's fucking great.
And then that that developed into the Fresno Nightcrawlers wearing belts, and then the social media influencers asking who they're wearing, and just God, it's such a good memory for me, and it's such a funny moment. And again, if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to episode 1. That moment, I think, is so stuck in my brain because I think we've had funnier moments since. Like, that moment is very, very funny, but it just solidified what the podcast was. You know what I mean? Just in that moment. So, what's another one for you?
So number 2 is our crossover episodes. So we have been lucky enough to do collabs with Paranormal in Pennsylvania and Horror Hour with the Hannahs. And it has been fantastic being on their shows, but it's been great having them on our show because their structures are very different than ours. Like, ours is a lot, like you said, like a morning zoo show. Like, we're kind of fly by the seat of your pants. So I remember us being like nervous. We're like, you're trying so hard to be on your best behavior in front of a stranger, and you just want everything to turn out well. And then they too quickly picked up on the vibe, and it was so fun to see them like kind of loosen up and like get into the flow of our weird shit.
and we recorded with Pip first. We recorded with Paranormal in Pennsylvania first, and Kat was the one who recommended Paranormal in Pennsylvania to me, because I hadn't heard them before. You said something, and I was like, oh, let me check them out. And I really loved their show, but it was this immediate thing of like they wanted us on the show, and I was like, oh, we're gonna ruin their show. Like I had this total fear, because their show is so structured and so well organized and so
very
just
well
like
produced. Yeah,
very well produced and calm in the best possible way. They have this awesome, and again, I don't mean this as I hope they never took this as an insult, because I meant it as a compliment whenever I told them, but like they have this very nice NPR vibe. It's just lo-fi, chill vibes.
Yes.
And Kat and I are just like, we're fucking like Danny DeVito, like, I'm the trash man! Like, you know? Yeah. Like, we're just coming in, just like chaos, like kicking open the door, like, fucking A, woo! And like, at the beginning of that episode, I definitely, recording with them, I had hesitation. But immediately we got into it. Not hesitation because I didn't want to be on, but like hesitation because I was afraid we would screw it up. And
yeah, like I'm trying to like wrangle in all the weird.
Yeah.
But they were so for it, and I love it.
And on top of that too, I mean, if you're a listener of this show, you know Kat and I both ramble. I think I ramble even more than Kat. We both are really bad at rambling. And so that was the other thing of like joining somebody else's podcast, and their podcast is so like to the point in a perfect way that I was like, we're going to ruin the flow of the show. We're just not going to shut up. And lo and behold, they had a great time recording with us, and then they came on our show, and we recorded a fantastic episode with them, which has some of my favorite moments, which is
NASCAR baby,
the baby going out the window, my dissertation on Mountain Dew,
which Pip was so here for.
And they were so game, so fantastic. And same thing with Horror Hour with the Hannahs. We recorded with them first. Very well researched, very well organized.
Very well researched.
And when they asked us to be on, they asked us to be part. They gave us a couple movies. I won't spoil in case they record them with somebody else. But we picked Saw because I knew a lot about Saw. And we're like, great, we'll do Saw. And again, I was like, we're gonna ruin their show. It was that same fear of like,
poor people.
You know, you don't want to destroy somebody's hard work and come on and like not stop talking or whatever. But immediately we had a great time. They had a great time. We just had them on for Franken-Turkey episode.
Yeah, and that was another one where I'm like, these people are never gonna talk to us again because we made them watch fucking Franken-Turkey, and Hannah was flat. She was just like, what the fuck was that?
Yes.
But I love that. Like that.
Yeah.
That was a very genuine reaction, and that's kind of what we were looking for. And honestly, that is all you can say about Franken-Turkey is what the fuck is that?
Exactly. And that's, I mean, I love that. I love that, you know, you can go to any of our podcasts, any of the three our podcasts or their podcasts, and you're going to get something different. And that's something I think we've learned doing this is that, like, you bring something different to the table. We all do it in our own beautiful, awesome way. So I those guys are all fantastic. Just so much respect for them. So again, definitely check out their shows too. Like,
yeah, definitely.
Please
definitely follow Paranormal in Pennsylvania and Horror Hour at the Hannahs.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us on. Hopefully you do in the future.
Us.
We're happy to have you again if you're listening. Please.
Yeah. So my number 2 is, I think, up until my number 1 was, this number 2 was the hardest I think we laughed on the show. It's from episode 7, and it's the moment discussing the piss bottle from Don't Drink from a Witch Bottle. That moment where, for anybody who doesn't know, that episode's about like haunted objects, essentially, to some degree. Weird things people found in their homes. And Kat brought in this story about this guy who found like a witch bottle under his house. And the moment that killed me, and we went on this like 10-minute rant that just devolved more and more and more, was some of the contents of witch bottles often are one of the things that's often in there is urine. And there was a guy, what you could tell the story, Kat. It was on Antiques Roadshow, right?
Yeah, there was an episode of Antiques Roadshow in the UK where a guy, I believe from Cornwall, found it is a porter bottle in their defense, and they had a glasswork expert on. He's like, oh, it's probably a porter. So they took a syringe, went through the cork, took a little bit out, put it in a glass, and he kind of like did like a little, tasted a little bit. He goes, tastes like rust. And they sent it to a local university to be tested, and they were like, "'Tis piss." And they told this man on fucking television. They didn't like pull him to the side and be like, "Hey man, just want to let you know that was pee." No, they put homeboy on blast on television, international television.
Within that moment, there are 3 moments that like lines that immediately come to my head. One of them is you doing the accent of the woman going, "You drank urine," just like the British accent, just like that cracks me up.
You just drank urine.
You just drank urine. I don't know why I'm doing my British accent's really bad tonight, but that moment cracked me up. Us imagining the guy with the Kill Bill music, like. And then we got onto the topic of Bear Grylls, and the thing that killed me was Bear Grylls sitting there with like a sifter of his own urine, drinking.
Aged 17 minutes.
Yeah. Oh God, it's so immature, but goddamn, is it not one of the funniest moments we've recorded? I think that was up until recently. That was my favorite episode because I was crying laughing at that.
Had released that episode if that had been episode 5 and not episode 7, Sarah and Erica never would have come on the show. If they knew we were just like piss jokes and
Yep. That episode holds up. Again, another one that if you haven't heard, go listen to "Don't Drink from a Witch Bottle" because it's and there's some really cool stuff on that episode too. We talked about my story was a story from Greg and Dana Newkirk, and like there's a lot of cool information in that. But if you're looking for one of our funniest moments, like that is up there for me as just like
your
so
story about
funny.
Billy the Idol, that was a really cool story, and the photo that you have of him with it, like that is also very, very cool. So
yeah, that's a good episode. It's a fun episode. So all right, Kat, do you have I don't know if you're going in order, but do you have like a number one, like a favorite moment?
Well, to get sentimental.
I think my favorite moment is kind of a continuing moment, but I am so glad that we have this great friendship that we have made out of this, because like you'd mentioned, we really didn't know each other very well when we had worked together, but we didn't really like have like one-on-one conversations. And now doing the podcast, like we just shoot the shit constantly, and like I've been over to watch movies. Like we watched Crybaby Lane together, and hang out with you and Shannon and Chomper, precious little Chomper, the little sweetie.
It's my sweet dog Chomper,
who has a candy corn onesie.
She
fucking
does.
Cutest thing I've ever seen. It's just it's good to know that there's fellow weirdos out there, and we get to do this very strange niche side project together. And it's a continuing moment, but that's probably like my favorite moment of this is just having someone to unload all of this information on.
Getting to know you and getting to know Shane and getting to know like you guys and just becoming friends with you guys, and just like it's been so amazing and such a like, because honestly, like, not to get like too I don't know, like personal on the podcast, but like us
Personal
forming
on
a
the
friendship.
pod.
What's that?
Personal on the pod.
Yeah. But us forming a friendship, I think, came at like a really good time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I like, it was nice to start working on like some sort of project with another person, because I hadn't worked on a project with a friend in a long time. I used to do it all the time, film short films or plays. I hadn't done something in a long time. And jumping into something and quickly becoming friends and finding a like-minded individual and just like developing this cool friendship has been amazing. It's been so much fun. And yeah, I mean, there are times where Kat and I will just shoot the shit for 2 hours before we even record, and then we're
we'll be like, I guess we have to make an episode.
So it's that, I agree, that is an amazing amazing moment. So I look forward to like more stuff in the future on the podcast and not us just all hanging out and stuff.
For
and
real.
you know,
we have talked about this off the pod, but still, I think we should absolutely do it. We do need to go to Moundsville Penitentiary.
Yes.
And do a ghost hunt, but we do need to, you had mentioned it, we need to dress up like the Scooby-Doo characters.
Yes, we need to do that. Shane needs to be there and just be like perplexed about the
whole
entire
time.
time.
Shane is like our token normie. Nothing gets to him, like scary movies don't get to him. He's just like sitting, every time we watch a movie together, he's just sitting there like, this is dumb. Like, well, thanks for hanging out with me. He's like, yeah, no problem.
Oh, jeez. Well.
What's our numero uno?
My number one, we've already talked about it a little bit, but it is from episode 12. Can AI write a creepypasta? And I can sum it up with 3 words, and it's make it dumber.
Dumber.
Make It Dumber is it is our magnum opus of this season. Just the amount for anybody who doesn't know or didn't pick up when we were talking about it, it was a moment where we were asking the AI to write a 2-sentence horror story. And we had it write it, but then I just kept prompting it to make it dumber. And
it did.
It made it so stupid.
But what really sold it was you, because you Ryan's reading this, and he's very like you have a good reading voice. Like obviously you've done acting for many years, and like you have a good flow to it. But something happened when you said make it dumber, when the California just appeared, and the most SoCal brocal voice came out of you.
Well, I started it kept making it
more like valley or more like
I started off with like a valley accent because it kept adding like, as I say, likes. It kept adding likes to it. But then at a certain point, I think one of my favorite moments from that is when you go, "Oh, send the next one to me. I'll read it in an Ohio accent." But the problem was it didn't make it more Ohioan or Ohioan. Whatever, you know. It kept making it more Southern California. It kept making it more California with more
like,
likes.
So
more,
there was like
yes. And so eventually just started reading it as like a surfer dude. And
my God.
The stupid shit it developed, the AI came up with, where at one point it was talking about a haunted necklace.
Yeah.
And it started calling it fugly. And like all this shit that was just like so stupid. And then I don't know.
Ugly. I remember it said butt ugly at one point.
And then I don't know where this came from. Because again, I even say it in that episode, it's a meme that died like 10 years ago. But it was the dumbest thing I could think of at that moment to make it even dumber, which was I asked it to add a dabbing Squidward into the story. And it made it more surfer bro-y, adding a dabbing Squidward, and then it eventually, I think Squidward flies away. Either in that one or the second episode, because Squidward makes an appearance several times. But that moment just lives rent-free in my brain all the time.
You were both Bill and Ted. Like you were Encino Man. You were that was a fantastic, like as I mentioned before, I laughed so hard listening to that episode. It's embarrassing when you laugh at your own jokes. Like we were going full-blown Jimmy Fallon with that. We were cackling at our own fucking jokes. But it was just...
And as I was editing, I couldn't stop laughing too. Like it was one of those things where like every time I watch that episode, I crack up laughing. And it's one of those episodes that like didn't perform super well, but I always tell people, like when we've talked to friends or things like that, or like a cat was like hosting a party a few weeks back and we were talking to people and I was like, if you're gonna listen to any episode, go listen to Can AI Write a Creepypasta? Because
that is a great intro to us.
Yes, it tells you everything you need. It may not be our most like best episode in terms of like content because it's not like super scary or weird or anything. It's not like paranormal or any of that stuff. But in terms of who we are as people, it tells you if you can get through that episode and you laugh, you'll like our show. If you listen to it and you go, not for me, You're not gonna dig
You're not
anything
gonna like
else
this
we
podcast.
do. No, because it is 100% us. On, like it's like that moment in Hot Rod where Danny McBride's like, "I've been drinking green tea all goddamn day." Like that's us at that moment. It's so fucking funny. I love that moment. Like I said, it is one of my favorites. I mean, I can even pull up. I'm curious. Now that we've kind of been through our top stuff, let me pull up the rest of the episodes and we'll kind of just look through them. See if there's any other moments that stand out to you.
Well, we had Ashes and Axe Murders. That was a really good one.
Yeah.
We talked about Disney and...
That's right. That's when
Deliska.
that's when we were talking about me being a Disney adult type of thing. And that was... God, that was a lot of fun. Our top 5 favorite horror movies was after that. And then Spirits Drinking Spirits is the episode about like haunted bars and stuff. That's when we learned about Harold and his NASCAR left.
NASCAR. We talk about NASCAR a lot.
We do.
On this show.
Episode 5 is Wandering Women from Behind the Veil. Or Beyond the Veil, excuse me. That's the episode with Pip, which is a really fun episode with them. Then we had our Pride episode, the Babadook and Mothman episode, which was a lot of fun as well. Also very educational, like in terms of like, that's a great episode. That's probably one of our, it's funny, but there's probably one of our more serious episodes because we really get into the idea of,
that's the one where I had a literature list.
yeah. And it's all really awesome, important like stuff. That's a good episode that I'm glad people have seemed to like. Then, of course, Don't Drink from a Witch Bottle was after that. Then we get into some of my other favorite episodes that I didn't include on my top 3 because they're not the funniest episodes, but I think there's a lot of really great discussion in them. And that's episode 8 and 9, which was 90s media scarier. There's a lot of... that was such a long episode, we split it into 2.
Yeah, we did a real hardcore, like, deep dive into... That's how we ended up with Bone Chillers, and that's how we dived into Art Intimidates Life and Frankenturkey. So you can blame those episodes for Bone Chillers.
Yeah. Episode 10
was... The Frightening Legends of Teke Teke and Kresse.
Yes. Which is a cool episode. I think that's another one that...
Spooky bitches who ain't got no legs.
Yeah. That was a fun one, I think. Sometimes you go to record episodes, and anybody who does a podcast or does anything creative knows that sometimes it's like, you sit down to record an episode like, okay, cool, this will be our topic. And it's not that you're not excited about it, but it's like sometimes you're kind of like, okay, cool, it just doesn't like strike you in the same way. Like,
but then you start recording and someone says, they're my legs and I need them now.
Yes, I almost did a spit take on that, 100%. And then you get great moments like that, and it cracks you up, and you go, "That was a good episode."
That's fantastic. And then, yeah. That killed me. 877 legs now.
Are you being haunted by the Teke Teke? Oh God.
Kresse, right, wiping poop all over fucking lawn. We had our pee episode, then we had our poop episode because we had to keep it even.
Then episode 11 is, of course, do you remember Bone Chillers, where we do our deep dive into Betsy Haynes and the Bone Chillers books and show, and then we talk about the first episode and the chaos of it. Again, a solid, fun episode. And after that, our 2 AI episodes. Can AI write a creepypasta? And can AI write the ultimate horror crossover?
Episode 14 was our favorite Halloween season films. That was a part 1 and part 2, so 14 and 15. Because that one ran extra long as well.
That's another great one. I mean, our movie ones I always love because we get into conversations. I think my favorite is when you're always like perplexed by a choice I've made. I mean, I didn't include it on my top 3, but another moment that we made actually a TikTok out of is the Exorcist 3 conversation.
I was like gagged. I was gagged. And I remember
all right, no, I'm gonna stop you there.
Where it was like, don't yuck anyone's yum, and then you said Exorcist 3, and I was like like a dick. But then I watched Exorcist 3, and you're right, it is really good. So I need to stop being such a uppity twat.
No. Everyone's allowed their opinion. That's what I love. Is it's like the same thing with Horror Hour with the Hannahs when they were on the episode the other day. I think, and I'm in the middle of editing it, for a little behind the scenes, so I don't know if this moment's gonna make the episode or not. But they at one point, Matt asked me like, "Is your favorite Friday the 13th really Part 8?" And I was like, "Yes, it is. I love Jason Takes Manhattan."
I could have sworn there was a moment where they just looked at each other. They were like,
Probably. So after that, we did an episode that I really loved, and again, if you haven't checked this episode out, please go check it out because I think it's one that didn't gain the popularity or the notoriety of some other episodes, but it's our Crybaby Lane episode from Halloween, which was just fun to riff on. It was fun watching the movie, I think there's like a lot of like I still think there's value to that movie. I still think it's worth watching, but also it is fun to kind of like pick apart and make fun of Carl and like all this
Carl.
Stuff.
Fucking hate
After that, we did an episode. Let me see if anybody's left any comments on this episode. No, nobody has. Cat and Ryan at the Movies. That was our episode where
nobody has what?
Left any comments.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I was curious if anybody had left a comment on that episode just to say they were either with us on our opinions or against us. So we had some pretty heated opinions on the Outwaters and Skinamarink. But
I feel like there's like two, and like to get back into that a little bit, I feel like there's two sides of this argument where some people are like, yeah, I didn't really get it. It wasn't for me. I didn't like it. And the other half is like, uncultured swine.
Right.
And like, you clearly missed the underlying tone of the... Like, dude, shut up.
Yeah.
I will be uncultured swine in this part. I don't give a shit.
After that, we had it's not up on the, as of recording, it's not up yet, but we had our Frank and Turkey episode, of course, which we just recorded.
So fun.
A blast. So much fun to record with them, as we talked about with the Hannahs. Also just fun revisiting Bone Chillers. But then, yes, our last episode before this one was our Ginger Dead Man episode.
I'm still wearing the sweater. That episode is a lot like Gary Busey. There's really no... He was with us in spirit for that recording. Because we're just all over the place. Yeah. It's we very much were just... There's a gun and a rat and a gingerbread and blood in the spices. And that brings us to now. Our season finale. For anybody, I just want to say before we close this out, for anybody listening, thank you. We really appreciate it. We may not be the biggest podcast in the world, not even close. But that being said, anybody who listens and enjoys what we do and has a good time, that means a lot to us. And, we hope that, maybe you're having a bad day, or maybe your job sucks, or maybe, whatever you're going through. Maybe you're doing totally fine. But if our show made you laugh a little bit or distract you for like an hour or 30 minutes or however long the episode is. That's all we can ask. Yeah, that's all we can ask for. So, thank you to everyone. Kat, anything you would like to say before we give a few details and then head on out? We're definitely going to be taking a little bit of time. We'll be coming back early next year, but we're going to take time to really fully invest in our seasonal depression and just really get... just really dive headfirst into that. No, we're going to celebrate the holidays with our family-damlies as well as you should. Mm-hmm. And when we come back next year, we're going to probably have a few minor changes, but we hope that you stick with us. And it'll be the same chaos. It really won't affect... It really will, yeah. That's not going to change. No, it's not going to affect your enjoyment of the show. It'll probably just be some things, maybe some format changes, maybe, some, different platforms or different ideas. We're kind of just kicking things around. We're trying to figure out how we best improve the show. If you have any ideas, if unless your idea is just like, you should improve the show by stop recording, or some
asshole move like that. But if you have any legitimate thoughts on things you'd like to hear on the show, how you'd like us to change the show, any
What
formats,
content
things
do
like
you
that,
want?
just leave us a comment. Leave us a comment on YouTube. You can leave us a comment on like Spotify, whatever. Just let us know. Or our socials. Definitely if you want to keep up to date when we start the new season.
Yes.
We will be posting that probably, a week or two before we relaunch on TikTok, on Spotify, on not Spotify, on
Instagram.
Instagram, all those places. So check us out there. Keep following us. I'm sure we'll still be posting occasionally, even during the holidays and things like that. Just little minor things. We'll probably be like,
Oh, I'll still be making stupid TikToks. I won't be stopped.
So definitely, we'll be back probably by the time this comes out. It'll probably be sooner than for you guys than it will be for us. But that being said, a little bit of a break, and we will see you all then. Kat, for the season finale, do you want to close us out?
Well, on behalf of Pants and the NASCAR baby, dabbing Squidward,
Gary Busey,
bottles full of piss,
the Melonheads,
the fucking Melonheads, and their little tiny hats. The state of Ohio, and the city
the state
of
of
Pittsburgh.
California.
The state of California and the city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Thank you so much for listening to our bullshit. Hopefully we'll be seeing you next year, and we hope that you have pleasant dreams.
All right. Until next time, everyone.